like being here and like everyone just rewards like the bad behavior, the narcissism. Like it's difficult.
No, you need constant male attention, and I'm sure you see that she does need that constantly.
Why did you tell Rob to go date other women?
I never said that.
You say right here, hi, as of March 4th, 2023, me and you are on a break and I give you permission to act single and will not hold this against you.
Apologize!
I'm sorry.
Apologize right now!
This is probably the most chaotic episode of The Last Resort we've seen yet. Between Rob and Sophie dividing the camp between the sexes and just swinging back receipts. Ari dragging Julia out of nowhere because she's jealous about Binny. And then Florian magically being the Natalie whisperer as she's eating Josh alive. This camp could not be more chaotic. It's safe to say everyone has absolutely lost their minds. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss The Last Resort. I missed you guys. I hope you had a great Super Bowl weekend, whatever that means to you. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're gonna jump straight into it because honestly, this resort, specifically this camp activity, like backfired to the nth degree. I think backfired doesn't even begin to cut it. It has been hell since they landed. It honestly reminds me of the play that goes wrong, or literally every scene like just goes terribly, like set pieces are falling apart, people are hurting themselves. That's what's happening. No one is being reasonable. Everyone is irritable. Everyone is fighting. People are in each other's ears. It's delicious reality TV. But before we get into it, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, you guys, because I am going to be coming with the new 90-Day Fiancé recaps, as well as Love is Blind, so you don't want to miss it. Make sure to hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any of the notifications. You guys, we're in the camp from hell. We are in the relationship cemetery. So why not pick up with Brandon and Julia, right? At this point, the lady, what's her name, Sarah Malone, pulls them aside. Also, alleged tea about Sarah Malone has come out that she actually doesn't have any credentials. So I guess I was right, because I keep saying that this lady keeps starting up fires and making these couples reveal some really dark-ish and then has no aftercare, has no follow-through. This is going to be her attempt at that with Brandon and Julia, but honestly, she's failing. Of course, all of that is alleged, okay? But anyway, Brandon is here. He looks like he has not slept, and he's like, honestly, maybe it was hurting you, but I honestly don't understand why you would reveal that kind of information. Like, what does it do for us? I wish you would have kept it to yourself. And I'm with Brandon, and that I think that it was a bit unnecessary in terms of timing. I really do think that Julia was trying to sabotage herself. And Brandon thinks that she's purposely going out of her way to hurt him. She implores that, like, it's important that she got everything out because it was holding her back, and she just expects him to also release whatever is blocking him. And I hear her, but I personally think that Julia is projecting in this moment. She's the one that clearly has skeletons in her closet. She's the one that's holding back in that way. But Brandon does admit that he's holding back in a different way. He's not comfortable with, being vulnerable in front of other people, which is why this confession hurt him even more, because he's like, you are my person that I'm supposed to be comfortable with, and now after hearing this, like, it makes me want to hold back from you, and I don't want to do that, but that's how I feel. And I just felt really bad for him, because you can see that he was really broken, which then makes me look at Julia like, I have yet to hear you say I'm sorry. You guys could tell me if I missed it, but I have yet to hear her apologize. I have yet to see her show actual remorse. She doesn't talk about what happened in connection to how she's making him feel. She keeps bringing it to herself, being like, that was eating me. Like, I felt so much guilt. I felt so bad. So I had to release what was hurting me. But not taking into account how her confession is hurting her partner. Like, it just feels very like, I don't know, she's not handling this delicately. She actually really cared about their growth and wanting this to be an opportunity where they both opened up. It is backfiring because he's physically shutting off. But yeah, I mean, the way that she's handling this whole situation is really turning me off to Julia, and I like the girl, but I don't think that she's handling this with care. And don't get me wrong, this is definitely the space to let out all of your grievances. Like, If you've been holding it all in, like you've already started, definitely say everything you need to say. But there needs to be a check-in with your partner of like, I love you and I'm sorry that I hurt you. And she's not giving not a bit of softness. And that's a bit concerning for me. Instead, she's like, so are we going to be able to get past this? Are you going to always hold this against me? Like, you're going to stay with me and like hold it against me for the rest of my life? And I get what she's saying. And I've always said, like, I'm not someone that can get past cheating. So if you're going to forgive someone that cheated on you, you need to be able to move on and not hold it against them. But I do believe that there is a period where you have to earn that trust back. So I don't know if I was triggered, but I just didn't like her attitude about that. Like, are you gonna get over it? Like, you just learned this. You may have been living with this for 5 years, but this is new information to him, and now he's revisiting all of those memories in his mind. It is your responsibility to guide him through that and not be an a-hole about it. You know what I mean? So I didn't like that. He says that he's gonna do his best to get past it. And maybe they will. Like, I'm pretty sure they're still married. There's no softness in the relationship. And maybe they're okay with that, but just watching that back. But if I were in Brandon's shoes, like, I would be looking at my situation differently because this person isn't even being remorseful. But in this moment, it seems like they have found resolution. I'm laughing because as they're talking, Rob is yelling in the background, so is Sophie. So Malone is like, so I'm going to see what's happening over there. Basically, like, y'all are boring. Let me see where the action is at. But when she leaves, Brandon is seated there and he's like, you're not going to drop more on me, right? And instead of being comforting, Julia's like, well, if I have more to release, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to release. That's not assuring. This is what I mean when Julia is sabotaging this relationship. Because what kind of response is that? You're supposed to instill confidence in your partner. But now he's seated there like, damn, did she cheat on me more than once? And I think Julia definitely did, you guys. In between the sheets, Brandon brings up that this is not the first time that he has had some kind of trust issues with Julia. He believes that she had a fling with one of her coworkers. When they pan to Julia, she doesn't deny it. Instead, she actually says that she's going to withhold the details on camera and tell Sophie what happened, that Brandon doesn't really want to know. She definitely cheated on him. And to add to the insult of that she definitely cheated on him, she tells Brandon in an extended clip that she didn't take the relationship seriously until she got to America. So you're telling me you guys are engaged apart and you didn't take him seriously? She absolutely cheated on him with more than one person. And again, this is information that if I were Brandon, I would be like, what? Like, is this all a joke to you? Like, I'm here trying to build a life. I'm here paying for the documents to bring you here. And you're saying you're not taking me seriously? Like, that is so deeply hurtful, deeply disrespectful. It honestly completely changed how I view Julia, because the fact that she doesn't listen to that and say, damn, like, that was effed up of me. Instead, she's just like shamelessly standing in that. I couldn't believe my ears. But anyway, let's get into the mess express that is the whole Sophie and Rob saga, you guys. Hi guys, I'm just getting home. I'm about to edit. And so much has happened today. So much has happened between Rob and Sophie, and I'm going to address it at the end of their segment. I just want to preface this by saying that what you're going to be seeing mostly in this video is my opinions regarding what was shown on television. And then after I'm done recapping that, I will give you my opinion and a quick rundown about everything that has come out literally in the last few hours. And I think it's important to add a disclaimer that we're touching on some DV territory. So if you or a loved one has gone through DV and this may be triggering stuff for you, I'm going to add in the timestamps so that you can skip their section, because it gets grim really fast. And abuse can manifest itself in so many different ways, as you and I both know. And it's just rough. And it's just one of those things that is really, really sad. And I think that TLC overall has handled irresponsibly. So all that to say, I'm going to give you my opinion as I had it when I watched the show, and then we'll recap the real life events. So first of all, we pick up with Sophie and Jasmine. Jasmine is in Sophie's ear being like, you know, I see through Rob's BS. Everyone thinks he's so nice, right? Go over there and put him on blast. Tell everyone what you found. And Sophie is like, and this is what Sophie wants, obviously. She wants someone to be on her side, to be loud, to get on Rob with her. So that's exactly what they do. But before they go, what she says is that her friend Kay, aka her girlfriend that she left Rob for and lives with, Kay sent her a screenshot of Rob in a dating app. She left his house for like a year. They were separated. It is messy AF, but if he was on a dating app, they were not together. And again, it is so messy to date while you have that back and forth, especially with people like Sophie who like are with you and then they get annoyed and then they leave you, but then they come back and then expect you to not have done anything even though she left you. Like it's that kind of game. It's really toxic and lines can be blurred. And at this point, I'm like, is he cheating? What do you guys think? Sophie and Jasmine pull up to the group, okay? And Sophie's like, yeah, you know, Rob is here pretending that he's here to fix our marriage, but while he's here, he's trying to sleep with other people. Rob is taken aback because he's looking at her like, you were giving me nasty glances all morning to pull up with this BS. And I felt for him because he's probably like, why didn't you just talk to me one-on-one? Like, why are you attacking me in front of everyone? And what's funny is that Sophie's like, yeah, you know, I've been keeping everything from everyone because I don't want them to hate you, as she proceeds to have a witch hunt against him in front of everyone. And she's like, I'm tired of you talking crap about me, telling people that we're not together because I moved out, when it's because you do things like this. He definitely cheated on you, however many years it was. For sure. I know people, it's controversial whether online cheating is cheating. I feel like if you are emotionally creating a world with someone, if you are exchanging intimate photos, you are cheating. And that is what Rob did eons ago. This was before they got married. She forgave him and got married to be in America. So all of that for me is BS. I feel like she just doesn't let go. As for anything that has happened afterwards, Sophie has maybe lived with Rob since they got married. What, like 2-3 months? So like 2-3 months out of 2 years of a marriage, they have been living apart. She has left him. And on camera, if you guys recall, I think in Happily Ever After, she would tell him, go to someone else. Go to someone else. He's like, first of all, yes, I've been on apps, but I haven't done anything because I don't trust you, because I know that if I do something, you're going to hold it against me later. And she's like, but you were on the apps. You were on the apps. And he's like, show me the proof. She shows him the proof and he's like, this is an app that I can't even get into. He's like, I tried to get into it like 2 years ago to close it, something like that. And she's like, so you tried to get into it 2 years ago? We were married. And then she's like talking to everyone like, we were married. You see, he was trying to get into it 2 years ago. And he starts yelling because it's such a clear manipulation of bits of truth. You know what I mean? And again, I can't believe Sophie's making me defend Rob. But I honestly am seeing someone that does not want to be with this man, but desperately doesn't want to be the bad guy. And for something to end, it takes two. And Sophie wants to wipe her hands off of any accountability. And that is my big problem with the her and Rob situation. She keeps making it seem like Rob is the only one that has to change. Rob is the only one that needs to grow for their relationship to reach a different phase. But she has so many issues too. And again, Rob the Knob is super immature. And he is showing it in the way that he's reacting because she's so purposely poking at him. But he's not making things better for his case, you know? But I also can empathize with feeling like you're literally ganging up on me with all of these women because at this point, it's like the battle of the sexes. They're all doing ad-libs to her comments. And she's like, see, like he was trying to do this 2 years ago. And he's like, that's BS. He's like, I try to get in to delete it. And yes, I was trying to date other people because you left me, because you weren't actually working on our marriage either. And Josh is like, Sophie, why did you tell Rob to date other women? She's like, I never said that. Keep that in mind, that she says, I never said that. So Rob then is determined to look for proof. And the sun is glaring so hard on his phone. So he's like bending down looking for proof. And it is super awkward because he's going to have to go through the archives. And of course, Sophie's like, oh, so what? We're supposed to wait for Rob to find receipts. And this is the point where it gets a bit chaotic because Rob is looking for receipts on one side. Natalie is seated at a bench and she's like, Josh, come here. Why did you say that about me? And he's like, girl, this is not the time. Like, and he walks off and she's just like huffing and puffing in this bench, okay? Everyone is still like around. Rob is still looking for receipts and he found the proof. Basically, they were on break and she was like, I won't hold it against you. It won't be cheating if you like move on because we're on a break. Like, I need time from you. And so at this point, Sophie says some BS like, well, like we then were trying to get back together. Girl, a break is a break, and that is something you said. I was pissed that no one was like, but you just said, just like you break apart Rob's words, let's break apart your words. You just said you never said that. It is there in writing that you said that. In between the sheets, Rob and Sophie touch on this topic, and Sophie says that Rob made her send this to him, but under the context of it all, it seems like they were off and on constantly. She would always hold things against him, so he was like, if you mean it, if you're really meaning that I should be out here because you're not going to come back to me, give it to me in writing. And so she's making it seem like she sent that against her will, like she didn't mean it. And that is illuminating to everything that we're going to learn afterwards. But it's one of those things, kind of like the D word. If you don't mean it, don't bring up divorce. Don't threaten divorce. And same thing with Sophie. If you don't want your man to be out here, stop inviting him to do that. Honestly, any angle that you look at this, it is so deeply toxic. They are addicted to the toxicity of their relationship and they've been in it for so long that they consider it normal. We'll get into that more after, but I just want to touch on that she did bring it up on Between the Sheets, and he confirmed that he asked her to send it if she was really about it. But she's now making it seem like he crafted it, but she sent it ultimately. Also, I have been locked out of dating apps. Again, Rob is just not a reliable person, so I understand why he is the prime candidate to make it look extra sketchy, but I have been there where you're locked out and that profile is there for who knows how long. I understand no one wants to get yelled at, and I like, you really should try not to yell. Like, it's just not, it just doesn't get you anywhere to yell. But I think that if you you need to give people grace and you need to give them a pocket to let it out. As long as it doesn't become aggressive, as long as it doesn't become violent, I think it's healthy to give people a moment to let it out and be like, okay, stop yelling at me, you know? Sophie, who started this mess, when Malone is like, okay, I need to pull you guys aside to check in about this, Sophie's like, well, I don't want to talk about this if he's going to keep yelling at me. And it's like, girl, you started this. He's allowed to react. You blindsided him in front of everyone. You just antagonize him in front of everyone. You don't get to decide what an appropriate reaction is. I'm sorry. But when Malone pulls him aside, they're going back and forth because, again, the timeline is messy. I think that Sophie and Rob kept breaking up and getting back together, and anything that he did while they were broken up or even started, she would hold against him. And I think that's why you shouldn't date while you are separated. Make sure you are done with each other, you know? Honestly, this conversation is going to go from bad to worse because Sophie takes zero accountability and Rob is super immature. He's super triggered, super wounded in this moment. So at this point, he just decides to walk off. In the extended clip on the freaking Between the Sheets, I wish that they would have showed this on air, because all we see on air is Sophie running to the bathroom and crying to her mom. But what we didn't see, and we did see in Between the Sheets, is that Rob tells her, your mom is a crackhead. That's why she doesn't like me. hello? What does her mom... I get it, her mom like started a lot of drama between your relationship, but this fight had nothing to do with her mother. And he purposely wanted to hurt her. He wanted to cut her deep. He wanted to embarrass her because she embarrassed him. But that's not okay. That's not okay to do. You're married. There should be respect for that union. And from day one, these two have been wildly disrespectful to their vows. That was crazy. That was crazy. I was appalled hearing him say that. And he's walking away like, you had the best. Like, he's just like, you had a real one. And Sophie, I felt really bad for her in this moment because you could see her inner child also wounded. I feel like in this moment, I think that she is a shit stirrer, but I think that the reason she brought it up in front of other people is because he is more explosive than she is. She could be an instigator, but Rob is 10 times worse in just the way that he reacts to things. And they both just are like a fire to a match. It is always gonna be like this, But I think that this is a prime example of how they use their deepest wounds, their deepest insecurities to hurt each other. And that's not love. They have formed this codependent relationship where when it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. If you've been in a toxic relationship, you could probably relate. But this was just so unnecessary and just like such a deep cut that didn't need to be done. And I've been giving Rob credit throughout this therapy because he has appeared to be working towards getting closer in his relationship. But when he does things like this, how could you possibly want Sophie to believe that you love her when you are using her deepest wound against her just because you are having a tiff? I'm not saying that what she did was okay, because it was not. To corner your partner in front of everyone like that is not okay. If you don't want to be with that man, don't be with that man. I'm not saying that that is ever okay. But I feel like this moment, what Rob did to Sophie is far worse than what she did to him. Hurt people, but this is just a magnified example of why these two are just so hurtful for each other and really have no business continuing this marriage. It should have never happened. She runs off to the bathroom and calls her mom, and we hear her, and it sounds like she's having a panic attack. And I felt really bad for her because regardless, like, this is a horrible situation. Doesn't matter who started what. But honestly, I think with these two, it's like the chicken and the egg. At this point, the blame can go so back and forth. Like, he was out here trying to date people, but it's because you moved out. You moved out because you don't trust him. You don't trust him because he was online cheating. He was on, like, it's like at this point, the blame is just pinging back and forth between these two. They cause so much harm to each other. I feel like at this point, they don't see each other with love, with grace. I feel like it's constantly a battle of wanting to be right. But I will say, at this resort, if anyone is actually putting real effort into it all, it is Rob. I think he's putting effort because he realizes that, like, it's been so effed up and he shares blame in that. Sophie has yet to acknowledge her part in the downfall of this marriage. So it's really just terrible to watch. Sophie is like, yeah, I feel like I'm trying so hard in these sessions. We must be watching different sessions. Rob is talking to himself. It looks like he's going cross country across the desert. I feel so bad for the cameraman. This is like the second time that he has them just following him to the middle of nowhere. Jasmine, though, comes in and she like cuts in the conversation between Sophie and her mom. And she's like, yeah, we saw Rob's true colors today. We're going to take care of her. And I'm just like, Sophie's a grown-ass woman. Yeah, she's young, but she's a grown woman. I'm so sick of seeing her get babied. Like, She's not a baby. She's a grown person that chose this man. Everything he did that was bad in the relationship happened before they got married. She made the decision to get married and still treated their relationship like it was a high school relationship. This constant punishing, this constant pushing of blame, it's exhausting. So now let's flash forward to today, where a bunch of tea aired online. And usually I just cover what's presented on the show, but I think that all of this that was released is important context. I got these screenshots from Instagram where Sophie posted along with a message from Rob. Very clear that these two have been in a toxic relationship, and I do believe that abuse can manifest itself in many ways. It's not obviously physical, it can be emotional, it can be psychological, it can be a number of things. People can punish their partners in different ways. Like, the list is endless, okay? So I feel like we are looking at a situation where there are two guilty parties involved, but we are only seeing one side of it. I have said it in previous recaps of The Last Resort that I am finding it interesting that they're not including Rob's outbursts in the main program, but they are including it in Between the Sheets. I wonder if everyone that watches 90 Day watches both shows, but I think it's important to show that they're both equally trash to each other. But all that to say, since even before The Last Resort aired, these two have been throwing jabs and subliminals at each other on the social media, which is interesting because they're technically under contract, so we're not supposed to know that they're not together. Kind of like Jasmine and Gino. Jasmine is still, calling Gino her husband, even though allegedly she has a baby daddy. But anyway, these two, I guess, are tired of playing nice. I don't know what triggered Sophie to come out with this, but she said that she is tired of protecting Rob. And she put a screenshot of the dating app, I'm guessing the app that she showed Jasmine. And then it gets a little darker. And this is where I'm like, oh, she was so young. Rob did not have a lot of money. We saw the conditions that he brought her in. I'm sure that he was under many stressors, but when you bring someone to America, they are your responsibility and you need to take care of them. And that is just beyond the material. It is mentally, emotionally, because it is a huge sacrifice to leave your home, to leave all of your comforts, to come here and just depend on one sole person. So Sophie shared some screenshots of her conversations with friends, basically telling them that she feels like he doesn't take care of her. He actually threatens to throw away her belongings, even though she already doesn't have a lot because she came with very little. And she shows footage of him, throwing her things away. There's some really disturbing footage. It looks like it's in the middle of a fight of him throwing things at her. Apparently this is something that happened a lot. He would throw things at her. And that's not normal. If you're listening to this and you're young and you haven't been through enough relationships, that's not okay. Don't roughhouse with your partner. That's not okay. And with this video, I don't know the context, but he looked angry, and you don't want your partner to throw anything at you when they are angry. And then she posts a screenshot of an injury on her face that she says was caused by Rob. I'm going to include it here, but I just want to add a warning before it pops up on the screen. And again, violence will never be okay. Domestic violence ends people's lives. And usually it ends people's lives through their soul before before something drastic happens. And it starts with the little things. It starts with speaking to each other in a derogatory way. It starts with, withholding things as a way to control. It starts with threats. It manifests in throwing bottles. The next thing you know, you're shoving people. That's not okay. And I think that Rob and Sophie were in a relationship where it became like, a tug of war. It became a power struggle. Who can hurt who more? Who can withhold what? I think that Sophie leaving his apartment, I'm glad that she left, knowing this context. I'm glad that she left and put her safety first. And I know that some people will be like, well, then why didn't she just, divorce him? And I too wish that she would divorce him. But if you know a little bit about how domestic violence works, it's a cycle. People leave a few times before they truly leave. Like, you feel bonded to this person, and it's not an easy thing to walk away from, especially in her circumstance where she left her home and she had to defend Rob against so many people. She wasn't just going to give up on the relationship. So I think in her own way, as toxic as it is, she felt like it was probably better to stay at Kay's and still be married to him. But this is clearly not a healthy environment for either of them, but clearly physically for her. And like, wow. I wasn't expecting to see any of this. I woke up this morning and saw a video about it, and I was like, okay, like this adds a lot of context because Sophie doesn't emote a lot, and when she does emote, she comes off, a little standoffish. She comes off spoiled, and she could be those things, but she is clearly also a victim, And this is her version of the events. This is what she has shared. Rob also shared a message of his own, basically saying something like, believe only half of what you see, something of the sort. And like, I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? That, Sophie did record this middle of a situation. We don't know how it started. And possibly we don't know how it started, but I do know that it does not look good. And in those videos, those are his words. Those are nasty words and sentiments coming out of his mouth. And no matter what, you should never let someone push you to the limit where you become this person that says things like that. It is not okay. But also, what is not okay is putting your partner in danger, right? Physical danger, sexual danger, all of the things. And also, I don't think that it's okay to out your partner. And as a bisexual woman, Sophie, I would also expect her to understand that. I can understand that she's like, I've protected this man from so much, but if he wasn't ready to be out, you putting his business on blast like this, it's super harmful. And she could have gotten her point across by just saying, Rob cheated on me. I know that he did X, Y, and Z. But I think that it was super intentional of Sophie to call out the fact that he allegedly cheated with a man, because she intended to publicly humiliate Rob and out him because he's not someone that is out. I think that Sophie knew that it would be scandalous to say that he did these things with a man because there's rumors that he allegedly was gay for pay, So I think she's fueling that. But again, this is just another sign of how harmful these folks are to each other. How in no planet this is real love when you aim to hurt. Because no matter what has happened, like, two wrongs don't make a right. She could have just been like, this man cheated on me. But to purposely out him like this is harmful in its own way. So again, these folks have zero business being together. I just wanted to give you guys this context. I couldn't make this video and not acknowledge all of the mess that is happening outside. But now we will move on to the actual program, okay? Then let's get to Natalie's outburst, y'all, because this came out of left field. Natalie, I guess, must have been like, I'm not getting enough screen time, so I'm not getting enough attention from the cameras, and I'm not getting enough attention from this man. somebody's gonna give me attention. When they pan to Natalie, she is like arguing with a producer, being like, I'm not going back there. He's body shaming me. And I'm like, who's body shaming who? I just think that it's hilarious that she's the one to use the body shaming. I honestly don't think she knows what it means. She's just using words. But weren't you the one referring to Julia as pregnant because she gained a little weight? Weren't you talking about Sophie's body every single episode in a gross way? If anybody's body shaming anybody, it's you. But at this point, I really do think that she's just throwing out words. And she's like, he's doing that to me. How could he do this to me? Everyone is looking very confused. Gino and Jasmine in their confessional are like, yeah, it came out of the blue. Like, what's wrong with her? We're exhausted by her. I really don't understand how she came up with that, particularly about Josh, because all this man said was that he is hot. You guys are in a desert. He doesn't want you all over him while he's trying to sleep. He can't sleep. But Natalie's like, he's insulting me and I don't think I should accept it. So I'm not going to accept it. And she goes up to Josh. And I don't know what it is about this episode that everyone feels like they need an audience. So she gathers everyone up in the parking lot and she's like, tell them what you said about me. He was body shaming me. Josh, who works with models, the last thing he needs in his record is that he's on camera body shaming women. So he's like, I'm not body shaming you. I never said anything about your body. You're beautiful. Your body's beautiful. And she's like, apologize. And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that you misunderstood what I said. And she's like, apologize. And he's apologizing over and over again. And she's like, nothing is penetrating her brain, her reasoning. And she's like, how could you do this to me? I'm not going to let you do that to me. Florian has to like drag her away and is like consoling her. And Josh is like, this is why I can't take her anywhere. This is probably the only moment I have ever felt bad for Josh because he's like, with Natalie, I feel like I lose my voice because she creates her own realities and runs with it. And like, it doesn't matter what he says, right? Like now he has to work on diffusing this bomb. So it would be exhausting for me to walk on edge. I certainly would not be able to be in relationship with someone like that. But he is the fool that has been entertaining this for 3 years. She's only going to get crazier. Florian, though, as I mentioned before, has this gift of being soft and tender with everyone except his own wife, okay? Because he is with Natalie and he's like, yeah, everyone thinks she's crazy and they don't take her seriously and I just don't think that. And he's like breaking down to her what Josh actually said, what she should do. She's trying to cut him off and he's like, are you gonna let me speak? And then goes back to being soft with her and she's listening to him because again, he's the only one that seems to be taking her side. Eventually, Florian brings Natalie back to Josh, and Josh is breaking it down. He's like, I don't like to be touched when I sleep, but that has nothing to do with you. I am sorry if you interpreted that as me talking about your body. That's not at all what happened. And Florian makes them hug, and you could see that she's like trying so hard not to smile, but then she knees Josh in the balls. And Josh is like, don't do that. Like, why would you do that? I really don't understand Natalie. And you could tell that she thinks that is so cute. And I get it. Like, some people need things to be a little spicy to get things going. But this isn't spicy. This is a grenade in your relationship. How do you think this man is ever going to commit to you? Granted, he was never going to. But honestly, like, if that was your objective, how could you possibly think that this would help you towards that? Malone comes in, and again, this lady literally just comes in to help with transitions. She does not help at all with the actual development of these couples. She's like, hey, let's move this in by the 10th to have an activity for you guys. And everyone's like begrudgingly going because they're just so over it. But anyway, we have this session where everyone is together again. Malone gathers everyone by the tents. Stacey's like, yeah, it feels like it's a showdown. Stacey, you are correct because everyone is beefing. Everyone is on edge. I really don't think that Malone ever intends on getting in deep into these issues. I think that she kind of wants to throw like a band-aid over it all. And everyone's just like, we're doing this for a check. That's the vibe. But she wants to lead like this primal breathing, screaming exercise to have everyone release all of the angst inside. Ari is like, no. And in her confessional, she's like, yeah, I'm super anxious right now. I don't feel like screaming. Like, that's the last thing that I need to do. Everyone has been screaming all day. And when we see Ari in this exercise, at first she has her glasses on. She's cradling her face. You could see that she looks really uncomfortable. But of course, Malone is like, everybody remove your armor. Take off your glasses. Okay. And she starts doing like this breathing exercise. She starts teaching everyone like the physicality of it. And you could see that the women are really taking it seriously. Some of the men are not, aka Gino. He's here like Gino and Florian are calling this Kung Fu and like doing Kung Fu moves instead. But then the lady starts talking about the screaming and like where it should come from. And all of a sudden, Ari just runs off. And obviously everyone's like halted at first because they're like, and there's a clip in between the sheets when this happened. Julia and Jasmine are basically like, oh, Ari wasn't getting enough attention, so she had to run off. And that is her MO a bit. And when Ari's away, she's like, ugh, I'm so tired of these morons. Like, she's not being a nice girl either, so I don't care that they were talking ish about her. When she gets back, though, Vinny's like, are you good? And she ignores him. And they didn't show this in the show, but in between the sheets, Vinny and Julia were like goofing off dancing. And that's what they do because they both are dancers. But in this moment, that's when Malone is like, Ari, are you good? And Ari was like, no, actually, like, I'm super triggered. She's like, all the narcissists keep getting rewarded. You know, you guys are able to see that Rob, you know, is a cheater, but I'm going through the same thing. I've gone through the same hell with Vinny, and no one is taking my side, basically. Like, she's big mad that no one is on her side because Benny's so likable. And here's the thing. Benny is certainly not the ideal mate. There is no denying that. He definitely did you dirt. You have every reason to not trust him, but you don't get to treat him like a dog. And there's a moment where she's like, yeah, you know, everyone, specifically Julia, consistently is always like, you know, going after Rob, but never against Benny. And Julia's like, I wasn't even here when you guys were attacking Rob. And yeah, Julia wasn't there. Julia was with Brandon and Malone. But Ari is blinded with rage because she has a vendetta against Julia. She was like, yeah, you were there, and it's possibly because you just need male attention always. I mean, Brandon, you must know this. You need constant male validation. So that's why. And I'm like, you are so big mad that this woman was dancing with your husband. She doesn't want Benny at all, but this was such a clear projection of her own insecurities, and it was nasty and uncalled for. Julie's explaining herself to Ari like, I think, like, I don't know what you're talking about because I wasn't even here. And Ari's like, I don't need to be yelled at by you. Again, I hate when people start ish up and then are like, but don't yell at me. You don't get to control how I react to your disrespect. Maybe it's the New York in me, but I do not like that. This is why I could never root for Ariella, because you need to get down to what your issues are and you keep blaming everyone else. If you in your heart, in your gut, in your body, in your senses, in your everything, believe that this man did you wrong, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. But that's why I really believe that Ari didn't come here to work on this marriage. I feel like she doesn't have any intention of leaving this man. She wants to punish him. She wants to put him on a witch trial and have everyone be like, yeah, shame, shame, shame. That's what she wants. Because otherwise, why else would she need everyone's validation? Why would she need everyone to rally with her? When you know something and that's your truth, you don't need anyone to vouch for you. And her desperation for wanting everyone to side with her makes her motives to me very clear. She wants to punish him, and I feel like she has punished him enough. I think that being with her while she's like this is punishment enough. But at this point, like, the Malone ladies, like, you need to stop blaming people. Everyone needs to stop blaming each other. And Ari's like, I'm just making a point. No, you literally were pointing fingers. You were calling people out by name. It's just hilarious to me that Ari's like, the negative energy is just affecting me. You are the negative energy. You literally brought this in, and everyone else's negative energy that was going on had nothing to do with you. Those are other couples' drama that you didn't have to be part of. You inserted yourself into the Rob&Sophie one. You could have just stepped to the side and let them hash it out. So her being like, the negativity. Girl, you are so grown. Get out. Touch some grass. And again, you guys, when I tear into Ari, I don't want there to be question that I think Binny is trash, because Binny is trash. But even through all of this, she's like, yeah, you know, I'm tired of conflict. Binny has said not a peep. And I think that's part of the issue, that he's super avoidant. But Ari, like, you are the one bringing the conflict. And I don't doubt that marriage has been hell with someone like that, but it has not worked for you for so long. Many people can co-parent and not be together. You moved to Ethiopia while he is still in Vegas. Sounds to me like you're doing just fine without him. Why not just pull the plug? Because at this point, it just looks like you are trying to punish him at every point. And in turn, you are punishing yourself. No one is happy. Ari ends up walking off though, and Malone leads everyone through this, you know, breathing, screaming exercise, or like pushing away the negative energy. At one point, it looked like Binny and Natalie were like dancing. They were like in an African Alvin dance class. It was hilarious. They do the screaming exercise, and honestly, at the end, I feel like only Stacey and Jasmine truly looked rejuvenated. Jasmine was like, I really needed this. I really needed this. And then they just pack everyone up with all of their beef, and they head back to the resort from hell. We do see one last clip, which is a bit of a cliffhanger between Jasmine and Gino. They're back in their room, and it seems like they're getting along a little bit. So Jasmine's like, Gino, fess up. I know that you didn't say what you actually wanted to say in the hypnotherapy. What were you holding back? And he starts tearing up, you guys. So I think we're going to find out in the next episode. I don't know, you guys. I don't think Gino cheated, which makes me even more curious as to what it could be that is bringing him to tears, you know? But I think that whatever it is not going to bring them closer, because in the preview for the next episode, Jasmine tells the girls, yeah, I want an open relationship and I know who exactly I want it with. And then she FaceTimes her alleged man, aka alleged baby daddy, Matt. And they show him on camera, so we know it's him. And to get things even messier, next episode, our girl Darcy enters the scene. And I love Darcy, but seeing her again with Stacey, her sister, I'm like, you guys hate each other, and honestly, you should both go to couples therapy. It has nothing to do with Florian. Florian is just a pawn in this lifelong tug of war that they've had. So I cannot wait to see the Silva twins together back on the screen. I think next episode is going to be even juicier. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this video. We covered a lot, so I really can't wait to hear. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.